Good morning, everybody. Now, another institution has totally been taken over by cultural Marxist nonsense, and that now is the Bank of England. They've introduced new policies, and in doing so, they have succumbed to the woke LGBTQIPAP2S agenda. So, their parental leave policy now says that birthing people can have parental leave rather than mothers. And they define a birthing person as a gender neutral term that means a parent who is or was pregnant with the child, but includes persons of any and all genders. Well, this is absolute nonsense because only women can get pregnant. Men cannot get pregnant because they don't have the equipment to get pregnant. It's absolute nonsense. I suppose when they're talking about any and all genders, they mean that there's not just two genders, but there's 147 or however many genders there are today. There seems to be more made up every day, whether you're a unicorn or an Arabian dwarf or an attack demigirl. I don't know. But none of these groups of people are actually real. You're either male or you're female. You're a man or you're a woman if you are over the age of 18. It begs the question, how many people does the Bank of England have working for it who identify as something stupid like a starry unicorn? Because if they have people like that, they really are not qualified to be the central bank of the United Kingdom. Whether we should have central banks at all is another question, for a whole other issue for another video. But we do at the moment, and it seems they're doing this because they want to get on the list of Stonewall's 100 top employers in the UK. And to do that, they have to take on board all of this utter nonsense, which really detracts from what they're supposed to be doing, which is actually having a positive impact on the economy. Again, whether central banks do that or not, they don't. But there we go. Like you said quietly, that's a whole other issue. But, as they are there, it is quite concerning because they set the interest rates for the United Kingdom. That other banks and institutions that borrow money from them when they lend money and so on to government and in gilts and things like this. This is the interest rates that affect everything, including the mortgage rates of ordinary people. But it seems that they're more concerned with worrying about people using their correct pronouns and all this kind of nonsense than they are in looking after the economy, or at least, making things better for ordinary people. It also says that they 4,000 employees that they have will be given diversity and inclusion objectives to reach, so targets that they will have to achieve, which they will be assessed on every year. So if you work there, the poor people that work there maybe went in just because they wanted to do, they wanted to do maths, or they wanted to do, something with numbers and figures and money and computation in their careers, in their work life, and they find that they're going to have to affirm all of this utter nonsense, this gender ideology. This is happening all over the place, and this is coming in with this ESG scores, which are not coming from the government per se, but businesses and institutions are doing this to themselves. And they're adhering to a wider program which is being driven by the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. All this gender nonsense, it's part of Agenda 2030. It's part of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. One of the Sustainable Development Goals is gender equality, which doesn't just mean equality of opportunity, which I agree with. It means equality of outcome, and not just for men and women, but also the next step of the program is to destroy the idea of men and women totally and then create just a complete chaos in terms of gender. And so you have people just saying the most ridiculous things about this all the time, as the Bank of England has joined in with. Now, it's utter nonsense. It needs to be just rooted out from our society and culture completely. I mean, you have countries like Russia and China who are derided in the Western mainstream media, but they don't do any of this nonsense at all. They're looking at us in the West, and just aghast in astonishment at how utterly ridiculous we've become. And it really needs to stop. And obviously, I'm acting in the political sphere with the Heritage Party. We will remove the concept of gender entirely from law. I mean, gender, there is no such thing as gender that is different to biological sex. That's just a fabrication. That's made up by people in the past, like Alfred Kinsey and John Money. Look them up. They were highly, highly dubious. I'm not going to say the words on here of what they were, but yeah, NONCES. And their ideas have filtered down into our society today. And these people, their ideas, their deplorable ideas and ideology has become mainstreamed and accepted by governments, media, businesses, cultural organizations all over the place. You got to see who these people were and what they are doing. And if you do, you will completely reject it if you've got any kind of moral compass whatsoever. So there you go. So that's back to the point. The whole idea of gender needs to be got rid of completely, because there's no such thing. It's different to biological sex. There are men and there are women. There are a tiny, tiny number of intersex people who have anatomical and chromosomal abnormalities, but they are abnormalities. It's not the norm, and it's fewer than 1% of 1% of people. So 99.99% of people who don't have biological abnormalities, of course, are men and women. And even if you are intersex, you can be easily defined as a man or a woman by your chromosomes. If you have a Y chromosome, you're male. If you don't have a Y chromosome, you're female. There you go. It's simple as that. So that's really a straw man non-argument that some people use to say, oh, no, there's not two genders, there's three genders, there's intersex. No, that's nonsense. But coming back to the practical reality of what the Bank of England is doing, just deal with money. You're supposed to be about money and banking, not about social engineering in this kind of utterly insane manner that they are doing. As and they're not the first institution. There are many, many others that we've seen that are trying to do this stuff. Bud Light and other companies that are going down that route as well, and all the companies that display the flag of degeneracy in June and so on. Absolute nonsense. There we go. So this is where we are, and it needs to stop. Thanks for listening. God bless you all.